Personally, I am beyond sad. It I am sad, but I am not surprised. Um I am I'm sad for my children because this isn't the world that I wanted them to live in. I'm sad for my sons who are young African American males who are both in the service, who are both fighting for a country that does not love them the way they love this country. And I didn't threaten either one of my sons and told them, if y'all go into the military, you know, y'all better go into the military or y'all ain't gonna live here. It was of their own free will. And it saddens me that they can go abroad and be considered US servicemen, but they will come back here and be considered just another black man. And that hurts my heart. I mean, I think that, like my one son is a cop. And so he is a cop in the military. But if he came here home and wanted to go and have a drink with his friends from high school, he would be another black man in a tinted car driving from a restaurant and could potentially never come back to me. And so for me, it just it's so disheartening. I mean, as a black woman, I know, I've heard from my mom, and from my grandmom, her mother, the stories of growing up, as a young black child, as a colored, and then to a Negro, and then to an African American. I've heard those stories. And as a child, you would think, oh, well, that was back then. Those were times back then, and y'all had to drink out of different water fountains. But to feel like it's almost come full circle is something I still can't grab, because I feel like now, if our only problem was drinking from two different water fountains, I take that over not knowing if your sons are going to come home just because they went out to a convenience store, or just because, somebody had the wrong house. And so now my daughter is no longer here because somebody had the wrong house for a warrant, and for the world not to care. Like, that is what is, I die a little inside every day. I really do. Like, when this thing happened to George Floyd, and I think you see all of the movies, when you're in school and you see the movies about, Alabama and Georgia and South Carolina, where we were killed and hung and whipped, and you see those movies as a child, and you had to see them because that's part of our history, and that's part of black history. And so you saw those movies. But for me to actually see it in real time playing out on the news was an image I'll never, like, waking up to the news and to watch this man have his knee on this black man's neck is an image. I mean, I can watch all of the movies about Dr. King and Rosa Parks and, Mississippi Burn. You see all those movies. And because that happened back then, it's like, oh man, but you watch it like, well, that was back then. But now, we're educated. We have a black president, and then you see the Eric Garners and the Trayvon, and it's like, are you serious? Like, it's like, this is 20, like, what's happening? Like, we had a black man that held the highest office in the land, and we're still getting killed because of the color of our skin. Like, it blows my mind. And it also blows my mind to think that my children and their children and their children will be watching that video like we used to watch the children of the little girls that got bombed in the church. And they'll be watching this as we used to watch videos, and in school, and we were like, oh man, that's crazy. crazy. That's crazy. I don't know white person do that to me. I wish they would. They'll be watching these videos and they'll be saying the same thing. And it's like it blows my mind that we are still here. Like it feels like we're still on this hamster wheel. And every time we think we get back off, somebody puts us right back in the cage and we're right back on the wheel. And so it, as a black woman who is dealing with, because she's raising children in this era, she's married to a black man. And I mean, my husband has a very prestigious job. He goes into work and, hey, Mr. Selden, oh, yes, what can I get you? And yes, sir, and that. But he could still be driving that same night and not come back to me or our 6 children. And that is a possibility that has now become a reality, to the fact that when he leaves the house, you have to say, I love you, be careful. I remember telling my sons, if y'all go out, because I don't have not 1, not 2, not 3, I have 4 black sons. And I hear the statistics all the time. And all the time they say that one of my children will not make it to 30, one of my black sons, because of what's going on in this world. And I remember telling my sons, if you are out with your friends and you get pulled over, live to fight another day. Do not say, why you asking my name? Why you tell them your name, where you live at, your parents, and their number. And if they put you in the back of the squad car, you go in the back of the squad car and you go to and you call us, and we will come and fight your battles. Do not ask them why they need to know that we weren't doing anything, because that is the quickest way for me to go pick up your body and not pick you up. And I remember having this conversation. They were like, but if we're not doing anything, and I said, listen, this back and forth that we're having, if you're out and you get stopped, if it's for no reason and you give them what they ask for, you will go home. If you give them mouth and this and they perceive you as a threat, you may not make it to the station. And when I had that conversation with them, I was in tears, because I was like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation with my 2 sons who get straight A's, who do nothing but play basketball and football and play the game in their room. And I'm telling them, if by that small chance you go out with your friends and you get pulled over by the cops, this is what I need you to do. In an ideal world, I think I would want to live in a country where we are embraced for our differences, where we are celebrated for our differences, where it's okay to be black and it's okay to be black and be married to a white person, or be white and married to a black person, or it's okay to love who you love regardless of their race or their gender, their ethnicity. It's okay to be different. I love to live in a world where we understand that God made us all in his image and it's no right or wrong. And, just because I live here and I do this for a living and you live here and you do this for a living doesn't make you better than me, doesn't give you the right to come home and I not come home. I love to live in a world where, there was equality when it came to jobs and when it came to housing and when it came to, love and just being able to, you're allowed to be different and you're allowed to voice your opinion and speak on if you feel like you're being treated or your child is being treated or your friend is being treated wrongly, and not die because you spoke up about being treated differently. I like to live in a world where you're not just governed by the same body, but you are taken care of by the same body. I want the same person that cares about your well-being and your jobs and your city and in your neighborhoods to be the same person that cares about my job and my well-being in my neighborhood. I want the president to not be a Republican president or a Democratic president, but a president for everybody. You know, in a perfect world, or in my ideal world, we'd be able to have those differences and still come to the table and say, okay, even though, these are children of African Americans, they still deserve to eat. And they still deserve to go to school in clean buildings where there's no asbestos. And they still deserve to be able to walk home without fear of getting shot, even though they're African American children. And, I'd like to live in a world where we're free to be who we are without the repercussions of death. I am not naive to think that everything's going to be peace and harmony all the time, but your skin color should not be a death sentence.